disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain to which Jesus had directed them. And when they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. And Jesus came and said to them, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything that I have commanded you. And remember, I am with you always to the end of the age." The Gospel of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
A lot of years ago at this point, a pretty well-known preacher, teacher, lecturer named George Buttrick was on a plane back when allegedly flying was more fun. I'm not sure it was, it was, but anyway. And he was doing what you do on a plane, trying to get some work done. And he was writing out sermon notes for the following Sunday, things he wanted to kind of get lined up. And his seatmate looked over at what he was doing and asked, "What's your writing?" And he says, "I'm working on next Sunday's sermon. I'm a preacher." "Oh yeah," the man replied, "religion. I like to keep my religion simple. I don't like complicated doctrines. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The golden rule, that's my religion." "I see," said Reverend Buttrick. "And what is it that you do?" "Well, I teach in the science department at the university. I'm an astronomer." "Ah, yes, astronomy," Buttrick said. "Well, I don't like to get too very technical about such things. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. That's my astronomy. Why would anyone ever need more than that?" Quick on his feet, that man. But in all fairness, both of those aren't bad starting points. The golden rule, that's a pretty good foundation to a faith life. It's a start. And twinkle, twinkle, little star, hey, you're opening the door. You're at least looking at a star and wondering about it. That's a doorway into astronomy for sure. Now, could they both use a little development? Yeah, probably. Sometimes simplicity isn't the best answer. Sometimes, like these two subjects, they deserve more consideration, maybe a little deeper understanding. And that's how we get into doctrines. Just like the astronomer starts looking out there and starts seeing things, which causes him to ask questions about what he's seeing, just as we get into our faith life and we ask questions, and sometimes that causes what we call doubt, which is mentioned here in the gospel. In response to that, I want to quote Mark Allen Powell, and I'll read you what he says in his book, Loving Jesus, about this particular gospel. He says, "I want to note that the word some is not actually found in the Greek Bible. Why is it in the English version? Well, Matthew uses a particular construction here that allows translators to think that the word some could be implied. He also uses that construction in 17 other instances, though no one ever seems to think the word some is implied in those cases. It could be implied here, but why would it be?" I asked a Bible translator that question one time and got the following response: "The verse wouldn't make sense otherwise. No one can worship and doubt at the same time." I invited this fellow to visit a Lutheran church. We do it all the time. Now, in all fairness, that's because Mark Allen Powell's Lutheran. teaches at a Lutheran seminary. It's not just the Lutheran Church. The Greek actually does say they worshiped and doubted. They were worshiping Jesus. They had come to the place where he had told them to meet him. And they are worshiping, but they doubted. You think they had some good reasons to? They've been following this man for 3 years. He's been crucified. He's back. They're up in Galilee on a mountain. There are a lot of areas prompting questions. And I think that's a good thing for us to remember from our remove here thousands of years later, when we are tempted to say, you know, if I could have been there with Jesus, if I could have heard him preach, if I could have seen him heal, if I could have seen the wounds in his hands and his side, it would be so much easier. I wouldn't have any doubts. Well, we're seeing here that those people who were there, been there, done that, had doubts. It's part of the process of faith. It's part of what we do. It's part of the reason, like when the astronomer starts looking and building cases with facts and stepping the next step and then the next question, we do the same thing in religion, which is how we came with our creeds or doctrines. And doctrinal study is pretty dry stuff. But I want to get into the root here, because here we go back to the Greek again. In all the translations, Jesus refers to Father, Son, and Holy Spirit in a very distinct way. 3 separate. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. And yet he does not say to baptize into the names of those 3 persons, but rather into a singular. Now, you can see one more reason where they might be questioning. At the risk of being a little heretical, it wouldn't be the first time, probably won't be the last. For many years, I enjoyed listening to Car Talk on public radio. Any other fans? Yeah. Oh. Well, the Mayatsi brothers were something else. But one of the running themes through their shows over the years, for you who are not familiar, they gave car advice, wrapped liberally in a lot of comedy and craziness, and a lot of laughter. One of the running themes in the show was that when they referred to the law firm, the show's law firm, Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. And referring to them frequently. Now, if you can imagine with me an advertisement for this law firm, Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. All right, here's the setup. Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe. A name you can trust. All right, there are 2 problems with that. All right, maybe more than 2. That is, on the surface, what Jesus is doing here. He's putting 3 entities together with one name. But it goes so much deeper. Remember when we recently were reminded that he said, if you have seen me, you have seen the Father. I am one in the Father. The Father is one in me. I will give you an advocate, the Spirit. That's a little bit more complete than Mr. Dewey, Miss Cheatham, and Mr. Howe. They worshipped and they doubted. We still worship with doubt. good thing. Because just like the astronomer learns by asking questions and looking for answers to the questions, so do we. Now, one of the questions that I would like to ask this astronomer, but I'll never get to, you've spent your life studying the cosmos, but you want to keep your faith simple? How does that fit? How can a simple entity deserving a simple faith create something so far beyond our imagination? We keep finding out that, yeah, this universe that we thought we knew pretty much the limits, wrong. There's just more and more. Same thing happens in our faith life. The more we look into it, the more we bump up against things and go, whoa, how does that fit? And then some wise person comes up with an answer. Notice I said a wise person, I didn't say me. There's where we get our doctrines. There's where we rely on our creeds. They're that foundation. They're kind of like that golden rule foundation that we build on. And we recognize that, like the astronomer, we're going to run into things we don't get. We're going to look in the wrong corner of our universe and not find what we're looking for. We're going to trip up, stumble in our faith. But Jesus says to these 11, and therefore to us, I know you have doubts. I know you have questions. I know you don't get the whole picture. How could you? But go. Don't just stand here with your doubts. Go. Make disciples, all nations, baptizing in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, singular, and teaching to follow my commandments that I've taught you. So this dry, dusty, doctrinal Sunday, it sounds like it should be kind of dull and academic and out there, but it's not. It's very much in here. It's part of our helping ourselves to understand as best we can, like the disciples. We'll never get there all the way. But it's part of the fullness of this cosmic God who created this cosmos and us, and who is with us, who has promised to be on our side until the end of the age, and is right there next to us, even in our most profound, difficult times of worship and doubt. And that's not dry academic information. That's very personal. That's a promise to all of us. And it's a very comforting promise when we accept it. Thanks be to God, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.